The world is full of strange places, strange things, strange people, strange weather, even strange haircuts like mine. What, you don't like my haircut? Well, that's not the point. The point is that there are so many places in this world that makes you think, what were these people thinking? What happened here? There are places you go to and you look at the way the structures are designed, the way things are placed in different strategic positions, and you ask yourself, are these people normal? Is this okay? What were they thinking when they designed this? Well, today I want to talk about a couple of strange places. If you've never seen or heard about them, well, you're missing out. Alright, the first one is the abandoned movie theater in Sinai Desert, Egypt. First of all, the question is, what happened here? I mean, when you look at this photograph, the first thing that comes to your mind is, who built a movie theater in the middle of a desert? Who's watching? Where are the audience? How did they get here? Like, what's going on? It triggers a lot of questions, but there's a story behind it. So this theater was built by a rich Frenchman called Don Ido in the early 2000s. So according to how it was narrated, so one day he was admiring the desert, puffing his cigar, drinking his scotch, and wondering what could fit perfectly in this space. And then an idea hit him. He imagined people sitting in the desert and enjoying a nice movie. So he quickly put this idea to good use. He went back to Paris and discussed this idea with some investors. He showed them the plan. He talked about how he envisioned it. And of course, they saw his view and decided to, invest in it. So he began by designing a special project for the theater. He ordered wooden chairs, furnishings, and so forth. And then within a short period, the theater was ready, and the first movie to be played on that night was the Jurassic Park. Now, the governor and locals were present, and everyone was ready to enjoy this movie. What makes it more spectacular is that the theater is in the middle of nowhere and it's dark. It's going to be played at night, notwithstanding all the desert snakes and whatnot that cross around at night. But then there were lights and there were people ready to enjoy it. So as the movie was about to begin, the electric generator crashed. There were rumors that it was sabotaged by some locals who didn't want the cinema at the desert. I mean, I can understand how annoying it would be for you to find out that there's a movie theater playing in the desert when it could have been invested in the city. But anyway, the whole plan came to a screeching halt. Everyone left without seeing a movie and the theater was consequently abandoned. Then years later, an award-winning photographer called Kapuo Kikas took photos of this place and it went viral. He wasn't expecting it. He just was like, hey, who set up a movie theater in this place? Well, just look at that. It's beautiful. It's thought-provoking and it's also just eerie, and everyone wanted to see it. It was creepy and unreal. Then months later, tourists started flocking. Everyone wanted to go and see what this man saw. But months later, after the photos went viral, an urban explorer went to the desert and met it broken down and torn in pieces. So apparently, when the photo went viral initially, scavengers or the same locals who sabotaged it went there and stole and destroyed what they could. So this beautiful, weird-looking theater in the middle of desert only have a photograph of it, but there's nothing else. The next place is the Church of St. George in Ethiopia. Have you seen a photograph of this place? Well, look closely. What do you see? It's like a church that was buried underground, or should I say a church that was dug out from the bottom up. I don't know. There's this huge cross on top of it. So this 8-stone church built by King Lalibela is considered to be the 8th wonder of the world. Can you imagine that? In our own Ethiopia, Africa. Anyway, the exact date of Lalibela's rule is unknown, but numerous historians speculate that he reigned in the late 12th and 13th century AD. Now, Lalibela was a devout Christian who dreamt of creating Jerusalem in his homeland in Ethiopia. Muslim invaders temporarily halted pilgrimages to the Christian Holy Land. So Lalibela decided to create his own homegrown Holy Land constructed from chiseled slabs of rocks. Lalibela's vision of Jerusalem included intricately carved stone churches that featured windows, columns, drainage, ditches, and catacombs. No one knows for sure if the Church of St. George was completed in Lalibela's lifetime or if it was constructed after he died in the attempt to honor his legacy. So this cross-shaped stone church has been a popular site for Christian pilgrimages since it was first constructed many centuries ago. Now, Lalibela's sunken network of stone churches appear impossible to access from the untrained eye, but if you take a better look, you would see that first there's a ladder pointing downwards. Now, I don't know if people use that ladder, but it seems like a very far height for anyone to use to go down to the church. But I suspect that people go from, from a different part of the area, which kind of like step down all the way to the bottom of the church. If you look below, you're gonna see people coming out from different points that look like holes. But I can imagine it's still a long travel down there, which makes the whole thing very unique and interesting. I love this place. I want to go. I mean, hey, it's a sight to behold. How did anyone even think of something so beautiful to build a church in the middle of the hole? Now, countless Christian pilgrims dressed in white have flocked to the Church of St. George to pray and express their commitment to their unwavering Christian faith. Well, if you're a Christian, do whatever you can to go to this place and see it with your own two eyes. It's totally worth it. Just from the picture and the video alone, it just makes you, want to go there. All right. Now, the next interesting place that I found was Lake Natron in Tanzania. Now, this lake is so deadly, it can turn people and animals into stones. So, what is it made of? Where did it come from? And how come it's in the middle of nowhere in Africa? It's just crazy. So, the lake doesn't float through any ocean. It's close to a volcano that spews lava called Natron, which ends up in the water. So the chemical components were used for mummification in Egypt back in the day. So the lake contains high level of pH level of 10.5. So that's why it's so reddish in color. But anyway, any animal that dives in and doesn't get out immediately can turn to a stone. In 2013, a wildlife photographer was the first to document this creepy place with lots of mummified animals. He claims that perhaps the birds saw their reflection in the water and then they dived into the pool, and when they didn't get out on time, they froze right in there. Birds like flamingos thrive there because of their tough skin and tiny legs, which prevents burns. So they are able to survive and feed on the algae found in the lake, but they are not going to turn to stones like the other birds. Now, depending on the time of the year, the water can heat up to 60 degrees, which is too hot for the human skin. So if you take a dive and sit in that water for too long, you'll be preserved like an Egyptian mummy. Or worst of all, if you have sores on your body before you dive in there, you're gonna be in a much pain. It's going to hurt like you never imagined. Woo! Feel hot already. It's an interesting place to be, but I wouldn't want to go in there. I mean, if you look at it, it feels like the place is the air is probably going to be so thick with the chemicals and everything else. But this is in our land, in Africa. So the next place is the Mashes of Deadvlei. Deadvlei. I speak so fast sometimes it's hard for me to get words across. Deadvlei. The Mashes of Deadvlei in Namibia. It haven't seen water in 900 years. There's a place that have not seen water in 900 years. Now, initially there was a pool in that land. If you're looking at this picture, you're going to see that there used to be a lot of water here, which caused the trees to grow. You have these giant big trees. I don't think you can ever see that size anymore today. But then the sand dunes came from the other side and then blocked the river's access, and it dried up. The water dried up, and then instead of the trees drying and falling, the trees died, but they never rotted away due to lack of moisture in the air. Now these trees have been dead for hundreds of years. It's incredible. Look at it. You just sit there like as if it doesn't even exist, like a fancy, 3D trees, but it's real. It's been there for many, many years. It doesn't die away, it doesn't rot away, and you can't use it for firewood, but it's just sitting there. And this place has been well preserved for tourism. Whew. That's the place I want to go. I mean, it's beautiful, but there's something chilling about it. Look at that environment. There are no birds, there are nothing crawling around. It's just all dead trees in proper formation in different parts. It's as if someone planted them carefully, knowing that the water is going to someday dry away and it's just going to sit there. Whew, it's Africa. All right, the next place is the hanging coffins in Sagada, Philippines. This is an ancient burial practice carried out by the Igorot tribe of Mountain Province in northern Philippines. Life and death is very important in every tradition. When a child is born, it's a very beautiful celebration. And when people die, it's also a unique event. And the way they send them to the afterlife is very, very important. Now look at these photographs. These people, these are all real coffins actually, with real human remains. They were hung up there. Initially, the reason, they put them up there because they did not want people going in to tamper with the coffins and everything else. And they also believe that, to help their relatives go to the afterlife, their coffins have to be preserved. So this burial tradition is intended to bring the deceased closer to heaven. Coffins are either nailed or tied to the side of the cliffs. Now each coffin is only a meter long, so the Igorots believe that people should leave the world the same way they entered. Hence they bury their dead in a fetal position. Now even more grisly, years ago, savages from different tribes would hunt for heads and take them home as a trophy. So it made sense that the people had to hang their dead relatives on the side of the wall so that no one will go there and tamper with the coffins. Now, one of the most common beliefs behind this practice is that moving the bodies of the dead higher up brings them closer to their ancestral spirits. But the elderly feared being buried in the ground. When they die, they do not want to be buried because they knew water would eventually seep into their soil and they would quickly rot. So they wanted a place where their corpse would be safe. So when someone dies, pigs and chickens are traditionally butchered for community celebration. For elderly people, tradition dictates this should be 3 pigs and 2 chickens. But those who cannot afford to butcher so many animals might butcher 2 chickens and 1 pig. But tradition is that a pig and chicken must be in the list. So the deceased is then placed on a wooden sangadiel or death chair, and the corpse is tied with rattan and vines. It is thereafter positioned facing the main door of the house for relatives to pay their last respect. Then the body is smoked to prevent fast decomposition and as a means to conceal its rotten smell. Now the vigil for the dead is held for a number of days, after which the corpse is removed from the death chair to be carried to the coffin. Now before being taken for burial, it is secured in the fetal position with the legs pushed up towards the chin. It is then wrapped again in a blanket and tied with rattan leaves, while a small group of men chip holes into the sides of the clip, hammering the support for the coffin. Now the newest coffins measure to about 2 meters these days. Coffins are long because the relatives of the deceased are afraid to break the bones of their loved ones. So very few choose to follow the tradition now. It's not like everyone in that place is buried up there, no. But they only do that during a certain event, more like a festival. That's when they get to bury people in that special way. They still have cemeteries where they bury their loved ones under the ground, but these are usually for special occasions. Back in the day, it used to be a norm, but now that things are changing, civilization is here, they are only doing it only on specific times or days. Whew, it's good to travel and see these places with your koro eyes so that you can tell the stories to your children or to your friends or to your fans. No, I haven't been there, but I mean, Some people went there and told us, and I'm telling you. I plan to travel to all these places I mentioned. Yeah, soon. Seriously, I'm going. So that's it for today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I tell dark, strange, and mysterious stories from Nigeria and beyond. Thank you for watching and have a good day.